we're on the verge of another Bitcoin bull cycle, it seems.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank
you. And with every new bull cycle comes a whole torrent of new Bitcoiners, right?
Yep.
Some are there for the short term, some stick around for the long term.
Yep.
But in the long run, we seem to be minting millions and millions of more people into this philosophy or cult or common ground, if you want to use the nice term.
I don't like cult.
Yeah, well, every culture begins as a cult.
Yeah, I still don't like it.
What advice do you like for people that are maybe going to listen to this episode over the next 12 months? We might be in the middle of a Bitcoin bull run. They're new to Bitcoin. They're going through the journey we've all been on. What are some, as one of the longest lived Bitcoiners on the planet Earth,
yeah, sure.
What are some nuggets of wisdom, some pieces of advice you would throw out for them to assist them on this journey?
Well, judging by the feedback from past podcasts I've done, the clip that keeps getting run over and over is, I said at one point, apropos of the story I told earlier about my first Bitcoin, don't sell your Bitcoin. It's going to be very tough to get it back.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's part of it. The other thing is, and there's great memes to this effect, but people talk about hodling or holding. And even for me, even when I talk to like a long time Bitcoiner who's got a lot of Bitcoin and they've held the whole time, it feels like, oh, that wasn't so tough.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, okay, so what? So you've been holding since 2012. Big deal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the truth is it's not easy.
No, it's not.
It's really hard. And there are a bunch of factors that make it hard.
Mm-hmm.
There's life circumstance where you need money or something,
Mm-hmm.
or, you know, and you're kind of forced to sell,
Mm-hmm.
or there's lack of conviction.
Mm-hmm.
When things go down for a reason, right? When the shit's hitting the fan and the price in fiat terms is falling, there's a reason usually that it's falling.
Mm-hmm.
There's some negative news, something that
Mm-hmm.
feels like things have changed from when I had my conviction. I have less conviction now.
Yeah.
So, and the only thing I think you can do to combat that is do your own research. Do your own research to the point that you have the conviction to hold through these difficult times, because the truth is it is not easy to hold. So, you know, do your own research, have your conviction, hold on with both hands. Don't sell your Bitcoin. It's going to be very fucking hard to get it back. And you will thank yourself for holding.
Are you outspoken on self-custody as well for new Bitcoiners?
I'm not.
No.
I'm not. I think conceptually self-custody is great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for self-custody. I would never, talk someone out of self-custody. But I think people should be free to Bitcoin however they want.
Sure.
And there are a ton of people for whom the Bitcoin ETF is the way they want a Bitcoin, and that's great.
Yeah.
There are people who want to put 1/100th of 1% of their net worth in Bitcoin. That's great. And there are people who want to put 150% of their net worth in Bitcoin, and that's great. I think to me, Bitcoin's all about freedom, and I extend that freedom to how people want a Bitcoin. So self-custody, great. If you're prepared for that, if you understand it, and you decide that the risks associated with self-custody are less than the risks of having an intermediary custody your Bitcoin, Godspeed.
Spoken like a true freedom maximalist.
I like freedom.
That is the common denominator with all of us Bitcoiners, I think, is we love freedom. And we're very disagreeable.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that? I guess you have to be disagreeable to get into the thing that is at the fringes.
I really wish, not that my wish matters, but I really wish in general that Bitcoin maximalists were more cheerful and constructive and less opinionated about things that, I don't want to say they don't matter, but they don't matter as much as the things that we agree upon. It's infinitely more important to orange pill people in the financial ocean out there that we're not a part of than it is to disagree with people in our little Bitcoin pond.
Yeah.
Like we got to get this out into the ocean, out of our pond.
Okay, back on all of these new Bitcoiners that are coming in over the next 12 months.
Yeah.
Do you have a certain approach or method by which you go into the ethical implications of Bitcoin versus fiat currency versus crypto, et cetera? Like, do you even go into that with them? And if so, how?
So I'm not preachy about Bitcoin. I've found that the best way to orange pill someone is to present it to them based on how you know them in the way that's most constructive. And then when their level of curiosity is sufficient, be there to answer questions. So I don't kind of push anything. I'm happy to discuss whatever topics people want. But I don't lead with anything or push anything like that. It's like, because everybody's different. And for me to assume that this area is an interest or that's an interest. And the truth is the majority of my, clients and folks that I deal with, they don't care about that stuff.
Yeah.
They just want to make money.
Yeah. What if someone did ask you, let's say, what are the ethical implications of this?
Oh, I love that topic.
Change in economic paradigm.
I mean, it's that topic that allows me to advocate for it, spend my time doing it. It's the ethical implications and the moral and ethical high ground that I believe Bitcoin sits on that allows me to champion it. It's the reason I don't champion other stuff on social media so that my message for this stays just about this. Because the other stuff that I might talk about that I have beliefs or thoughts on is not on, it's more opinion, right? Whereas I think that Bitcoin is objectively ethical, egalitarian, good, right? So I stick to that. I think it shouldn't be political. It shouldn't be partisan at all. It's, in my opinion, Bitcoin is much more powerful and more important for the blue collar, everyday working person than it is the affluent person. That blue collar person may not have as much influence on Bitcoin as the wealthy person, but it's more important for them. It's what gets them to beat inflation. It's what allows them to have savings. It's what banks the unbanked. You still got, billions of people in this world who can't get banked. They can't have a bank account. It used to be a huge Democrat Party talking point was banking the unbanked. Bitcoin literally banks the unbanked. They all have smartphones. They all literally have their Bitcoin on their phone and be banked like that. So I think the moral and ethical high ground of Bitcoin is the sole reason that I'm able to advocate for something that's primarily a financial thing.
It's great. What about the long game? Do you think that that Bitcoin becomes the primary money of the world? Do you see it existing alongside CBDCs? If you're looking 100 years out, what direction do you think we're headed?
100 years out. I have trouble going 5 years out. I think that in the foreseeable future, 100 years isn't foreseeable to me, but in the foreseeable future, nation states are going to exist, and therefore fiat currencies are going to exist. And I think Bitcoin coexists with those things very nicely. If you look at the model that Saylor put out at the Bitcoin conference, his base case model looking out 21 years, I think in his base case, Bitcoin goes from whatever infinitesimal percentage of global assets we are now to 7% of global assets. And that gets Bitcoin to 13 million per Bitcoin. And so at 13 million per Bitcoin's 7% of the world's assets. We're coexisting with everything. There's still real estate. There's still equities. There's still all these things. We're just not quite as insignificant as we were. So I don't subscribe to some hyper Bitcoinization view where Bitcoin is going to topple all the things that we know, love, and hate, and is going to be replaced by some big orange world. But I do think that a superior asset is going to demonetize other inferior assets.
Where does gold fit into that picture for you? You think it just continues? Gold's another one of the assets it operates alongside?
Every time there's been a digital successor of an analog predecessor, it doesn't get to the point where the digital successor just equals that analog predecessor, right? Like if you look at mobile phones versus rotary phones, right? Mobile phones are everywhere on the planet. Rotary phones were not everywhere on the planet. They were in people's homes, and that was it, right? And so we've crushed that, right?
Yeah.
And there are tons of those examples in life. And I think Bitcoin will do the same to gold.
Wow.
You'll see Bitcoin be many, many multiples of gold by the time it's done. It won't just equal gold.
So do you think Bitcoin's going to take gold down to its commodity use value at some point? That gold will just be another industrial metal, demonetized?
Potentially. I mean, people seem to have a great appetite for holding inferior things. So I'm sure there will be people who still want to trade it, still think it's going to have a resurgence or a comeback or whatever it is, and there'll be different views. It's not going to go away.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be Bitcoin either.
That's interesting. I wonder, like, to try and reconcile that with the view that nation states are still here. I mean, they're probably still here, but they're going to look different. If gold gets demonetized, central banks hold 25% of the gold supply.
Yeah, they can sell their gold for Bitcoin.
That's going to change. Okay.
They can print their currency for Bitcoin if they want, if it's winning, right?
So if gold is failing against Bitcoin, you think they'll just adapt, basically?
Yeah, and they've got some pretty strong forces with how they choose to adapt too.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. It was like needs to be a movie of some kind. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, click here to find more just like it, and here to find our most recent episode. Also, make sure to like this video to help shine light on the corruption of money, and be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay connected.